Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
The conversation with West Community Credit Union's Josh Rodriguez started in Ashland, Oregon at the CU 2.0 Room 39A launch event in late September. This podcast, the conversation picks up. Fodder for the show came in the form of a questionnaire distributed to event attendees. Josh had dutifully filled his in. He agreed to discuss his answers on this show, and we take as the jumping off point West Community Credit Union's podcast, Banking on You. Josh is behind that effort. It's a good show. It's a good podcast. Ought to inspire other credit unions to try something similar, something that's different from what most credit unions are doing with their podcast. We also talk about West Community Credit Union's implementation of an AI bot. Ambitious stuff for a $400 million credit union, but West is proving it can be done. Also, dazzling are Josh's plans for more video, more audio content that will be surfacing in West Community. Along the way, we discuss work being done by Ann Legg and Sarut Barwani. Regular listeners know about this work from podcast number 378, link in the show notes. There's also mention of an episode with Lee Silber, editor of the Credit Union Way. There's a link in the show notes to that show. Listen up.
West Community Credit Union has assets roughly $400 million, right?
Yes.
And what's the status of the podcast you're doing? And I gotta tell you, as a listener, I got a bone to pick with you.
Oh yeah, what's that?
I really liked the show St. Louis Part 1. But I don't see St. Louis Part 2.
St. Louis Part 2.
And St. Louis Part 1 posted in July. This is now late October, and I looked again today. I was saying, where the hell is Part 2?
All right. Well, let me explain, and this will be helpful. So when we first started the podcast, my original idea was to do audio stories. So a little different than just traditional
you're doing very different kind of podcast, and I really like it.
Yes.
And I like the one that you did before that about the community art, the Credit Union Art Museum.
Yes,
that was great.
That was a lot of fun.
So you're doing very different kinds of things. This is not question answer. No, you are telling a story.
Right.
And in the St. Louis one, what I thought was so great about that podcast was that it reminded me that St. Louis, like Baltimore wasn't mentioned, they were great, important cities 100 years ago. Really important. And it's wonderful to be reminded of that history. And you did a really nice job with your guest on that show.
Jared is a longtime St. Louis lover, born and raised here. He spent some time away from college, while in college, and for a few other things, but came back, and he is St. Louis's number one fan. I loved having him on, and you're going to hear again from Jared in part 2. So,
okay, so what's the status of that podcast? Let's go back to that question.
So it's going to launch November 17th. It's coming up here in a couple of weeks. The reason why is part 2 is actually going to focus on the devastating tornado that hit here in the city May 16th of this year. So the last time the city was hit by a tornado, we're here in the Midwest, we get tornadoes all the time, but rarely does it happen in the city. I believe it was in the 1950s. I think 1958 was the last time a tornado actually touched down in the city. So the reason why there's such a gap in between there is I've been gathering information, getting interviews, and talking with people, because what the tornado, it went through some of the poorest neighborhoods in the St. Louis region and just devastated them. I've been there myself. We've got some interviews with some people that are on the ground. I've actually got another interview scheduled for tomorrow with a doctor that is working hard to restore the area to get. We're almost 6 months out, Robert, and there are still a lot of needs. So the reason for the delay is we are working to keep the awareness alive about the effects of the tornado and the individuals that are directly affected, because winter is coming. And, winters in St. Louis are not quite like winters in Phoenix. They're a little bit warmer in Phoenix, but we have homes that are still covered with tarps. We have homes that are uninhabitable. We've got people that are living in tents on their front lawns because they're not allowed to access their homes. We've got tarps that are falling off of homes, or have long since fallen off of homes that were heavily damaged in the spring. And so we are building this next episode. The first part of Banking on St. Louis was to talk about how great we were and where we can go, and then this one is to really help open up people's eyes about what we need to do to correct or to fix not just the effects of the tornado, but these neighborhoods have been fallen into disrepair for many years. A lot of these individuals don't have any mortgage insurance or homeowners insurance on their properties. They have been passed down from their parents and oftentimes from their grandparents. And so the titles that are on these deeds, the names that are on these deeds, oftentimes are not even the individuals that are living in the homes at this time. They're from, previous generations. So this has caused a huge problem when it comes to repairing these homes and getting these people back on their feet. They simply don't have the funds. They're underinsured or uninsured, and they need help. And so part 2 is going to take a look at these neighborhoods, these individuals, and the people that are helping restore St. Louis. And we're going to try to get some awareness out about what needs to be done and how we can continue to help our neighbors in need. All part of the community mission of the credit union, to help our community, to be people helping people, to shine light in areas that need attention, and to be part of the whole, the whole program ourselves, to be part of the whole effort ourselves. And we've done that. And we're going to continue to do that. So I think you'll like part 2. It's a little different than part 1, but it still continues the storyline of this wonderful place called St. Louis, and what we can do and how we can improve the lives of the people that live here in our region overall.
Are you aware of other credit unions that have a podcast? I know CUNA, whatever it calls itself today, has a podcast. But or do any other credit unions have?
I have scoured the internet. This was part of my research before launching Banking on You. I've scoured the internet for all credit unions that do have podcasts, and there are quite a few out there. In my research, I've discovered that most of them are from the C-suite or CEO point of view, and they're often focused on leadership, which is fine. Leadership is important. Our credit unions can all, every one of us can use a good helping of leadership encouragement and instruction. But leadership is not only, it's not just based in credit unions, right? There's hundreds and thousands of leadership podcasts out there. So while other credit unions are in the podcast space, we wanted to do something a little different. We wanted to really dive into the lives of people, into our community, and tell effective stories to get the attention of those that are in our field of membership and those that are in our industry. I think credit unions have done a not so great job of telling our story. We love to help people, and we're empathetic. Credit union professionals, often many of us didn't intend to get into this industry. We kind of fell into it or found our way into it, and we have a heart for people. Unfortunately, along with that heart also comes a bit of timidity, and we don't get out there and tell our story very well. So we do some incredible things. Every credit union does fantastic things for the community, for their members, but we've not done a very good job of actually telling the world what we're doing. So that was one of our strategies with Banking on You is, hey, let's actually tell everyone what's going on in the form of an audio story. And we're going to have, as we get into the new year, we've got a ton of things planned. We're going to branch out a little bit beyond just member stories, and we're going to have some more of these like we're having right now, these one-on-one interviews. And we're going to be putting out a lot more content within the next couple of years and kind of, broaden our spectrum as to what we're doing. The audio stories, Robert, take a lot of time to produce. That's just the fact of the matter. It takes time, a lot of time and effort to produce, and we have a kind of a small team, and so that's another reason why there's this large gap between part one of Banking on St. Louis and part two. We've been working on getting the second half of the story put together. So, in order to do that, we're gonna focus on other formats rather than just the audio storytelling. We're not abandoning that by any means, but we're going to continue putting out good stories, and we want to put out good content that helps not only our communities but also the credit union industry as well. So look for that next year.
Yeah, I would say my sense of what you're doing in that show is more analogous to a non-existent medium, the radio play, which was very popular in the 40s, 30s. And those were produced. It wasn't just four people sitting around reading a script. There would be sound effects, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of cool stuff, which doesn't happen in your standard podcast Q&A.
I'm flattered a bit that you mentioned the old time radio plays, because I've been an old time radio fan since I was about 9 years old. And I've made my children into fans as well. My inspiration for this podcast, for Banking on You, has been This American Life, and some other similar shows that are mostly aired on NPR, but there are a lot of other podcasts that are, produced in the same way. This American Life is fantastic. I mean, I just love listening to these really great stories, and they do such a good job at producing those, and they've done it for, oh boy, like 25 or 30 years now. It's been maybe not quite that long, but it's been a long time. And I didn't see that type of storytelling in the credit union space. And so when I approached my CEO about the possibility of putting together this type of a show, it's something new. And like I said, I've scoured the podcast apps and the internet for all credit union podcasts, and I don't see anything out there like Banking on You. I think it needs to be duplicated. I mean, I'm doing my best. I'm sure others could probably do it better, but it needs to be duplicated. So because everybody is on, everybody's listening to podcasts these days, from the 10 and 11-year-olds all the way up to every age. So it's a great medium. It's convenient, and we can listen to it any time, whether we're brushing our teeth or on our commute or just sitting out on the porch with our morning coffee, whatever we're doing, working out, doesn't matter. And so it's a great opportunity for credit unions to tell our story, but we have to do it well. I guess that's the key. And I liken it to when I first started, before we launched the show, I traveled around to all of our branches because I wanted to get as many member stories as I could. And where else do you get member stories than those that deal with members every day, right? The front line. And the way I would explain to them how we're approaching storytelling is, when you sit down to watch the Super Bowl, which is coming up here in a few months, there's two different types of people, maybe more, but people that watch the Super Bowl, first of all, there's football fans. They love to do it. And there's others that are there for the company and for the commercials, right? And they just have a good time being at parties, but it's the commercials, and it just grabs them. Well, when a company is producing a Super Bowl commercial, let's just say it's a bank, the worst thing they can possibly do is talk about their rates or their product or their history or any of those things. No, you'll immediately just get up and go get another soda, another plate of wings or chips and dip or whatever, if that's the case. But a Super Bowl commercial is structured to grab your emotions, right? Right out the bat, whether it's sympathy or empathy or laughter, comedy, whether it's making you tear, making you maybe a little bit angry or make you think. It is structured to grab the emotions. And that's why Super Bowl commercials have become the monolith that they are, right? These things are talked about from December to middle of February, and they're just top of mind. Why? Because they move us.
Hey, I haven't watched this Super Bowl in many years, but most years I watch at least a half dozen of the commercials nowadays on YouTube.
Right. And
It's
that's great. You can do that now. You don't have to go through the whole game.
it's
You can just watch the
it's
commercial.
yeah, well, they're aggregated, so you just it's you don't even have to hunt for the things.
Right.
It's and so those commercials do have a life of their own. And you know, one of the great commercials like Mean Joe Green with Coke. I mean, that's a and tell me what the argument is there. There is no argument. It's pure emotion, but it's
Right.
beautiful.
Right.
So
Right. Way back in the day, right? The Budweiser frogs. I mean, just funny. There's just silly stuff, but you don't forget about these things, and they move you in one way or another. Now, it's funny that you mentioned not having watched the Super Bowl. Hadn't watched the Super Bowl until for many, many years. I think since I was, I don't know, a young child, until about 3 years ago. I was out in California. Just didn't have any interest in it. I was out in California with family, and they had a Super Bowl party, so we went ahead and watched. One of the commercials was, and I don't remember what the car maker was, but it was like Audi or I don't know, and it was the commercial had nothing to do with a vehicle. It was a young girl that was ice skating at a competition, and the shot showed her dad, and there was this empty seat next to her. Her mother obviously wasn't there, a little bit pulling at the heartstrings. So then it switched over to this cabin where her grandfather was, and it was an electric vehicle. And the father plugs these outdoor lights into his electric vehicle, which shines lights on this frozen pond. The grandfather comes out and gets to see his granddaughter skating, right? And so it made me want to buy an electric vehicle. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Of course, I'm not going to do that necessarily, but it was all about pulling at the heartstrings, right? Pulling at the emotions, and it was effective. Now, the ROI on the commercial, I couldn't tell you. Doesn't matter. It affected me emotionally. That was the whole point of the commercial. So that's our approach. We want to tell great stories that really move people to action, and really hit them in their emotions, whether it's, laughter or whatever it is. We want to tell a great story that moves people and tells them about our story. That's really the whole.
uh, look in my the podcast library. It's just a fairly recent show. A guy named Lee Silber, who's written a book or edited a book called The Credit Union Way, which is loosely based, shall we say, on Chicken Soup for the Soul structurally.
Okay.
And it's a short show. It's 25 minutes, I think. But you might get some idea from that. You might not.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting to talk to him. And one of the authors in that book is Ann Legg, who was at that event you were at in Oregon.
Oh yeah.
And that's when she was working for a credit union in San Diego County. So it's a very small world. Yeah, I asked him, okay, read one story in the book. I'll put it in the show. He reads it. And I said, who wrote that? And he said, a woman named Ann Legg. I said, well, Ann Legg's been a guest on the show.
Yeah.
It's credit union world can be a very small world.
Yeah, and it's
And unfortunately, they all believe their own stuff and are very poor at communicating it in ways that touch other people. And I'm more cynical about credit union marketing than I think you are, where it's and I totally agree. You tell me what the auto rate is. I don't give a damn. I'm not buying a car today. Who cares, man? Whereas you tug on my emotional strings or something, and then you got me going. Now, in this Oregon event, you say that if you were celebrating with a glass of champagne a year from now, what would you be celebrating? Celebrating 10,000 podcast downloads and starting 2 additional audio projects. What would those audio projects be?
So that the podcast downloads is more of a professional goal or celebration. The audio projects are something a little more personal to outside of my credit union work, although there might be some crossover there, and there is a little bit. So I have been, as I mentioned, has been a long time fan of what's known as audio dramas, radio plays, also known as old time radio shows. And I'm part of a group that it's called the Audio Drama Alliance, and we're a bunch of hobbyists, enthusiasts that create, produce, act in, sound design, um, audio dramas. So audio plays, audio shows. Some people refer to them as movies for the ears because they just kind of encapsulate you and just draw you into the story, give you everything but the visual, because the visual is on the theater of the mind, which I think is 1,000 times more fascinating than anything that could be created in a cinema. Nothing wrong with movies. Movies are great, but the theater of the mind is there's no limits to what you can create there, and it's a lot less expensive, to be honest with you. So I have one project that I did actually September of last year. It's out on audio.com on LinkedIn. And it's just a simple 5-minute story about the beauty of the longtime love between a husband and his wife. And so this goal would be a couple of those that I wanted to produce. I'm in the middle of producing one right now. It's supposed to be ready here in a few days, but maybe over the weekend. But just audio projects to, it's kind of my own thing. Now, on another note, we also do some internal projects with the credit union. These aren't released to the public. These are both audio and video. Actually, we've moved more towards video this year. I'm part of our workforce development committee, and we do some internal projects around our workforce development committee to inspire our employees to give them a better workplace, to really help them out as far as, and I'll just give you an example. So we have a series, we're on the second season now, that's called My CU Journey, My Credit Union Journey. And the first season was I sat down and interviewed every one of our senior leadership team and just talked about their career journey. Not necessarily all related to credit unions, but just whatever path they had taken to a vice president position here at West Community. Some fascinating information, things that many in the staff had never heard of. We have one member of the senior leadership team that spent 14 years managing a movie theater before moving into accounting, which she worked with a temp agency in accounting, and then worked her way through a credit union to become the CFO. So just wow. People. Oftentimes, I think when you're younger and you see a vice president, you think that they just they graduated from college and boom, they became a vice president. That's not necessarily the case. There's always a path. There's always a journey. So we put together these audio stories for the staff, and they just absolutely loved them. Which is fantastic. Just really like humanized our senior leaders, and that's kind of a I guess of a natural thing that happens when somebody is in senior leadership in a senior leadership position. Sometimes those that are in the lower levels of the organization, you look at them and think, well, I could never be that, or they're untouchable, or they're better than me. And it's just a natural thought. But so we really wanted to humanize them and really wanted to bring them and make them relatable to everyone else. And it really helped to do that, to show the journey that they had been on in their career. And so this year with the new season, we're doing video. I'm actually working on one right now. It's on my screen. We're doing video instead of audio, and we're interviewing. We dropped down a level or two, and we're interviewing some of the middle level. If I can say that right, the mid-level managers and some of the others that are not in management, and just talking about how they came to the credit union, what they experienced, and why they fell in love with the credit union, and what they want to do next, where they want to go next. We're looking to inspire our teammates, our employees, to really take control of their career. And this is an encouragement to help them to fill out, which is another part of the workforce development team, an individual development plan. So whether they want to be a VP at the credit union, or they want to be an architect, or they want to be an artist. It doesn't matter what the focus is on the individual's desire. What do they want out of their career? And the credit union is here to help you, to give you the proper resources, to give you the tools, to give you the guidance to get to wherever you want to go. And yeah, even if it is outside of the credit union, we know that many are not going to stay here for their entire careers. It's just a given. We know that some have ambitions elsewhere. But what can we do as a leadership team to help these individuals reach their goals, to help them get to the next level, and to really pour back into them to help them to get to where they want to go, whether that's here or somewhere else? Just pour back into people. So that's all part of those projects. That's the big picture as far as those, the My CU Journey project and others that we're doing, which was just really to pour back into our workforce and help them get to the next level, whatever that might be.
Why video as opposed to audio?
I made the mistake of saying we could do video, and then there's no going back. This video is so captivating, and they're interviews. They're kind of done in a documentary style. And what we did the first year is we debuted them at an all together, which was what we call our quarterly meeting, and then we had a monthly call where everybody would get together via Zoom or via Teams, and then we played these through that way. And so we found that having a visual when we're doing things virtually like that really helped to keep everybody's attention. Now, it wasn't just audio last time. We put in a few pictures and shots and different things of the individuals as we were talking about them. So we kind of had like a slideshow that supported the audio. But it did kind of lose some of the individuals' attentions at times. And so having that video produced and just getting that out there in front of the staff, it seems to be a better way to engage, because we also changed our delivery system this year where we're not meeting together via Zoom to debut these. We put them out on our intranet, and then we just continue to encourage the staff to view those until we can look at the metrics and see that, like 95% has actually partaken of and viewed it. So that's why we kind of moved over to video. I'm an audio guy. I'll forever be an audio guy. It's been a bit of a challenge moving into video, but I like challenges. So maybe this can open up some other opportunities and some other doors for us internally and externally as well.
At this point, as you know, many, if not most, podcasts are also coming out in video format. And I resist it for a very simple reason. I listen to 90 minutes of podcasts every morning when I'm walking. I never listen to them any other place. And how could I watch a video when I'm walking for 90 minutes? I couldn't do that. I'd fall.
It's dangerous, right? Exactly. Right.
So I'm aware that video is a trending thing in this podcasting world, but I'm resisting it.
I'm kind of on the fence about it. There are very few video podcasts that I consume.
Oh, it's mainly just talking heads. I mean, it's like, why we even bother with the pictures? But I guess that's just me being cranky, which I'm good at doing.
Well, no, I think there's part of it though. It's a lot easier to create content for social media when you have video.
Oh, sure.
So you can create a 10 or 15 or 20-second clip with video, for any of the social media platforms.
Like that's the main dish at Facebook. I look at my feed and there must be half the page must be filled up with little short video clips.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
And I like 10 seconds. They're tiny clips.
Yeah. So, that's our shrinking attention span. That's contributing to that.
And it's all about attention span.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with things like Facebook, attention spans get further eroded, or TikTok, for heaven's sakes. But that's a whole different thing. Now, and in that, you also say that you successfully implemented a generative AI for an internal chatbot. What's involved in that?
So West Community / Tigers Community, we have two brands. We're one credit union, has been in the AI game since 2017 or 18. Predates my being part of the credit union effort. I was at my previous credit union back then. Very, very early to debut a chatbot. My CEO Jason Peach has always been very forward looking, very progressive. He's a fascinating individual in that I wouldn't call him a techie. As a matter of fact, it'd be just the opposite. I wouldn't call him an early adopter himself, but he's a great businessman and a great leader. And so he sees, he sees the coming landscape, whether that's AI or whatever it might be. He sees it very well and very clearly, and he's good at getting in on, at least as an early adopter. In some cases, a bleeding edge. Maybe not so much anymore. Things are changing so quickly, but still, he's been fantastic at it. So we had an AI chatbot internally and externally for many years now, and then of course with Chat GPT and generative AI and all these other LLMs just popping up all over the place. I think it was 2022 or 2021. Can't remember now. It's been a couple of years. We moved from just the it's funny to say the traditional AI to generative AI. It's silly to me to even say that because everything's just moving so quickly. And so our internal chatbot, who we have nicknamed Watson, he's quite the fellow, does chats back and forth rather effectively. And we've been able to increase the amount of knowledge on the front line by giving them quick access, easy access to Watson and his ability to gather information from all of our archives, from our data, from our information that we have in our data pool, and to communicate that back to our frontline employees in a way that's easily understood, that is encapsulates what they actually need. That has just revolutionized our ability to serve our membership. And a lot of credit unions are jumping on this bandwagon. It's more available now than it ever has been. But we were able to take our history working with a local company here in St. Louis, actually, Capacity. They're based here in St. Louis, but they're worldwide, and utilizing their skills and their product, their chatbot products, to really give our frontline and even back office, just a really fantastic tool. We're also using it for IT. So IT queries, if you have a question about the network, about if you need help with something, you can jump on there as well. And Watson does a really good job at responding to those and giving you the information that you need. Really basic stuff. Of course, you can always contact the IT department through the ticketing system, but it just gives another layer of information that's easily digestible to our frontline, so we can effectively serve our members and serve one another.
So give me a scenario where an employee uses this. What's the setting? Where are they? And what do they ask Watson?
Sure. It's as simple as something like rates. So traditionally, credit union tellers would have a rate sheet, right? And every time the rate changes, here's a rate sheet, everyone, shred, destroy the old one, and then put this where you can easily access it, or that was the old school way of doing things. And it went to, of course, we have an intranet, you can get rates there. We have our website, you can go out there and get that information. It's posted in different places. I remember the binders we used to have at the old teller line, right? You have to flip through all the binders and the plastic sheets. I hated those things. And they were, they gave our members a little bit of reason to question if we really knew what we were doing. So pulling out a binder every time. Of course, not everybody had to do that. But say somebody comes up and just wants to get information about a specific CD, the rate, the term, all that information. All the employee has to do is pull up Watson, which is on every page of our intranet and available every time we're open. It's a little chat button on the bottom right-hand side of the page. They pull it up and say, and just ask a question like you would ask any LLM, which most people are accustomed to doing that now, like ChatGPT or any of the others. Can you give me information about our 6-month CD or a three-year CD and the details about it? Boom, it's got all that information immediately. They can relay that to the member, and then if they want information additional to that or printed information, they obviously have resources to do that as well. And that's just a really simple example of like a CD, but anything that we have in a policy or that we have in a procedure has been entered into Watson and can easily, in a conversational style, give that information to frontline employees so they can then relay that and serve our members.
Now, I know the root of Senso did a project like that for One Nevada.
Yes.
And one of the things they discovered in that process was that oftentimes there were documents that contradicted each other. Did you run into any of that?
That is an ongoing issue. Yes, that is a problem. You've got to have the proper documentation in your data pool, and it has to be kept up to date. So even though AI is fantastic and can grab that information, it's only as good as as the data that you have. And that's something that, Robert, we're looking at on a much wider lens now, or much, a bigger scope than just generative AI as far as a chat bot for our frontline. Is if we're going to dive into artificial intelligence, generative AI, using bots, using automation in different areas of the credit union, which we are currently exploring and actively moving in that direction. We have to make sure first is that our data is good. And this was something that Anleg talked about, in Oregon in September at the conference that we both attended. Is the AI or the bot is only going to be as good as the data that it's researching. We see the same thing, online with ChatGPT or any of the others, right? There's a little disclaimer at the bottom of those results that says this information may not be 100% correct. Why? Because it's pulling from the wealth of knowledge of the internet, and we both know not everything on the internet is correct. So the key is having and updating that information correctly in your individual data pool with something like a generative AI internal chatbot. That is a problem. And so I know that specifically Sarup is doing some really cool things as to having that data, cleaning up that data, and making sure that the bot is pointed in the right direction and not towards two different documents that are with conflicting information.
Yes, it's not like documents issued on the same day are contradictory. It's one from 1995, one from 2025. Well, so they contradict each other. It's right. Understandable, but it's a real bother for the credit union employee who's trying to answer a member's simple question, and you're getting two contradictory things from the machine. It's coming. Just talk to me, man. Just tell me what's true.
Right. So that's not so different of a problem as the old binder and printed out PDFs, right? Well, my binder says this. Well, the teller next to me's binder says something different. So it's kind of the same thing of getting correct information in the area where it needs to be. Yeah. They didn't shred their rate sheet from last week, and now suddenly we've got two different rates up at the front line. Oh, that's a problem. Well, it's just a high tech, problem all over. A high tech rebirth of an old tech problem.
Well, it's when I've been working with computers since the early 1980s, and back then the mantra was garbage in, garbage out. It's still the case.
It's still the same. It's right. Right. So the importance of that data cleanup, and like I said, that's what we're looking at on a larger scope. If we're going to implement, different areas of automation into the credit union, if we're going to take a big look at, using bots, and this is something that we've done, even if we're going to do this inside of our core, is our database clean enough, quote unquote, clean enough? Is it slick enough to be able to have this technology run inside of our systems, or is it just going to put out a bunch of garbage and be more confusing than it was anyway? So that's where we have to take a look at is data cleanup. We have unnecessary fields out there, all these different things. We have to make sure that we're giving these new emerging systems good data to read from. Otherwise, it's just going to be more frustrating.
The last question, and this again is from that document you circulated in Oregon. Question: what current industry opportunity are you trying to seize? Your answer, and I quote, effectively telling the CU my story. What does that mean?
So I think that's a little bit of a typo. It's supposed to just say effectively telling the credit union story, I think.
Oh, righty. I'm looking at this thing. So West Community is confused about Josh Rodriguez. And you're going to go in there and say, hey, no, here's who Josh is. Okay, good.
We could do that. We could talk about my story, but I don't know. I think I'd rather talk about the credit union story and members' stories.
This just jumped out at me. I said, this is getting very existential. What the hell is he trying to say here?
Oh, that's funny. Actually, scratched out on my copy of the book because I'm pretty sure that was a typo. Or I left it in when I was, maybe I went to do something else and came back to finish the
You
question.
might have I typed mine up in like 5 minutes or at the maximum. And I don't know that I even proofread it before I sent it in.
I'll take
So,
the pen for that one. I probably typed
I
it.
mean, no, yeah, this was the most existential thing I read in this book. I'm saying, wow.
Not nearly so deep. Actually, pretty simple. The credit union story. Let's tell everybody about the great things that we do, and let's do it in a great way. Tell great stories about some incredible individuals and some incredible, members.
And remember,
Yes.
a large trade association, I will not mention the name of, has spent millions of dollars telling the credit union story to no effect that I'm aware of.
They're telling it incorrectly.
Exactly.
They're telling it
Exactly.
incorrectly. Let's go back to the model of the reluctant hero, right? Let's make our members the hero and not the credit union. We do some great stuff, but let's talk about how these individuals have overcome. Yes, we were there. We were the Obi-Wan that led them through that. But let's highlight these individuals and these members as the hero, as the Luke Skywalker, as the overcomers.
Hey,
And
who are the original heroes in the credit union movement? It's those French-speaking guys in New England who are annoyed because the community doesn't recognize them. The bank won't deal with them because the bank's in English and they're French-speaking. And they say, let's start a credit union. And the original documents, most of them were in what? French. I mean, these are the heroes. And,
they were the heroes. They were, but people don't care about them anymore.
oh, I hear you that. I'm concurring with you that this is the kind of story. And this was member activity. It was not credit union staff activity because there was no credit union staff.
Right. Right.
These are the stories that empower credit unions and tell people how credit union is different from a bank, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
It's, if you just cite to me chapter and verse from some NCUA document, which no one besides you has read, not you, but whoever's telling me this, it's, I don't care. I really just don't care. I'm going to fall asleep.
Right.
So,
what about me right now in the financial situation I'm in? How can you help me get to the next level? Right? How can you help me correct my mistakes? I've done, that consumers do a good job of jumbling up their finances, but we can be there and we can show them and tell them exactly how we've helped others, and they can identify with that story. And before you know it, we're doing it for them, and then we've got a member for life. So it's important to.
well, right now I'm seeing a lot of credit unions saying we're going to help our members who are directly impacted by the federal shutdown and the lack of paychecks. Wonderful, wonderful. Why doesn't a member tell me this? So
Very good.
I'm delighted to hear that you say you're going to do this, but I don't know that you've done it. So whereas if the member says, "Hey, this is how I bought groceries for my kids this week," blah blah blah, now you got my attention. It's
Right. And I think as an industry, we're coming alive to that. I think we're getting there. There's some really great testimonial videos. Whitefish Credit Union up in Montana has done some really, really amazing stuff. More of a documentary style videos. They're very short. I think they're like 10, 12 minutes long. But just, using the backdrop of Montana and the mountains and the forest, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful short films. And they really do a great job of having the members tell how the credit union had helped them, mostly in small businesses, I believe. But they're more and more, we're seeing some really good stuff out there. As far as, and mostly in video, and most credit unions don't have the budget to do video and can't do it well on their own. But I think that we could all at least dip our toe into audio, and that's where a lot of people are anyhow. And so this is I'm hoping others will catch some inspiration from what we're doing with Banking on You and begin to tell great member stories through audio.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey again. That's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support. The CU 2.0 podcast.